Welcome to the third video towards unit number 5, in which we would be talking about cluster analysis in marketing. This video is outlined as we'll try to understand what is cluster analysis in context, cluster analysis in marketing, and we'll try to understand what is psychographic segmentation and lifestyle segmentation. With basically the first part, let us try to understand what is the general definition of cluster analysis. I've tried to collect this definition from Wikipedia, which says cluster analysis or clustering is the task of grouping set of objects in such a way that objects in the same group are more similar to each other than to those in other group. With this definition, we may seem that it is something very technical and I would not be in a position to understand it. To make it understand in a simpler way, let us try to move forward and try to understand. It is easy to overthink cluster analysis, but our brains naturally cluster data on a regular basis in order to simplify the world around us. Brain is doing that for us. Whether we realize it or not, we deal with clustering in practices every aspect of our day-to-day lives. For example, group of friends sitting at the same table restaurant can be considered as a cluster. Similarly, when we go to a grocery store, goods of similar nature are grouped together. They are grouped in order to make shopping more convenient and efficient. Similarly, in biology, when we were in school, we studied that human belongs to the different cluster. Those clusters are primates, mammals, amniotes, vertebrates, and animals. In this example, note that as we move down the chair of clusters, humans show less and less similarities to the other members of group. Means humans have more in common with primates than they do with other mammals, and more in common with mammals than they do with all animals. That is what we can analyze in simple when we talk about cluster analysis in our day-to-day context, which makes us to understand that cluster analysis is nothing, not a complex but a simpler thing to understand when we look from a marketing perspective. Moving forward, let us try to understand what all the example which we discuss is trying to talk about. The first and foremost, cluster analysis is a statistical method used to group similar objectives into respective categories. It is also referred as segmentation analysis, taxonomy analysis, or clustering. Remember, people or friends sitting on one table grouped similar objects into a respective categories. Similarly, in market research, a cluster is collection of data objects that are similar or dissimilar to each other. In this case, the primary objective of cluster analysis is to classify objects into a relevant homogeneous group based on set of variable considered. Also, we can move forward and understand that cluster analysis is also a powerful data mining tool. It is tool which is powerful for any organization because that needs to identify discrete group of customers, sales transaction, or other types of behaviors and things. For example, insurance providers use cluster analysis to detect fraudulent claims, and bank uses it for studying and analyzing credit scoring. Hence it is termed as a very powerful data mining tool. Similarly, cluster analysis is a tool that is help or tool that is used in lot of disciplines, not only marketing. Basically, anywhere there is a lot of data available, to condense it into clusters, what we call market segments in marketing. Similarly, the goal of performing a cluster analysis is to sort different objects or data points into group in a manner that the degree of association between two objects is high if they belong to the same group and low if they belong to the different group. That means cluster analysis differs from many other statistical methods because of the fact that mostly when researchers do not have an assumed principle or fact they are using as the foundation of the research. This technique is typically performed during the exploratory phase of research. Since such since unlike techniques such as factor analysis, it doesn't make any distinction between the dependent and independent variable. Therefore, cluster analysis is leveraged mostly to discover structure in data without providing an explanation or interpretation. In short, cluster analysis is also a research tool help to segment the target market as it consists of grouping of set of data objects into clusters, which is most helpful in identifying data points that are similar to one another within the same cluster, while also unearthing how they are dissimilar to the data points object in other cluster. In regards to market research, cluster analysis is typically used as a stand-alone tool to get insights into market segmentation. It can help marketers define the distinct niche in their customer base so that they can develop marketing program for optimal results. We can this further classify with a simple example for us to look into. If we try to understand an organization which is trying to use Google AdWords for optimizing its business, would use cluster analysis as a campaign targeting tool. The client or the businessman wanted to reduce the cost of Google advertisement by putting on all the large cities in Maharashtra into two homogeneous clusters. As he was doing a business in Maharashtra, so he was trying to create two homogeneous cluster, the more profitable cluster and the less profitable ones. For finding out this, he tried to use the two types of variables for clustering procedures. In AdWords, everyone would be aware of the two variables which can be used is number of paid clicks and number of conversion per click. Further, the businessman identified from the cluster analysis that there are profitable and non-profitable group of cities through Google AdWord advertising. Interpretations were Mumbai Pune received high number of clicks but relatively low number of conversion. On other hand, Nagpur and Nasik and Thane received higher number of conversion relative to the number of clicks. With this simple clustering procedure, we know which geographical areas should be excluded from our AdWord campaign. The budget consumed by the unprofitable cities can now be allocated to the more profitable ones. That is what we can in a simple way analyze the utility of cluster analysis for a particular business with this example. Let us move forward further and try to identify with respect to the example which we have discussed that what are What are the different types of utility of this utility in case of marketing? The first we'll try to look into is we need to identify the specific groups within a population. For example, when cluster analysis is performed as a part of market research, specific groups can be identified within a population. The analysis of this group can then determine how likely a population cluster is to purchase products or services. If these groups are defined clearly, a marketing team can target varying cluster with tailored targeted communication. That is what could be helpful for us for targeted communication and which could be personalized depending upon the segment which we are going to choose. Similarly, cluster analysis in marketing is a process of grouping consumers of similar psychometric, demographic, geographic, or socio-economic attributes into groups called as cluster. So, the primary objective of cluster analysis is to classify objects into homogeneous groups based on set of variables considered. Depending upon this, marketers can use cluster analysis to segment the market and more effectively target the selected segment with relevant to them marketing campaigns. Cluster analysis examines the entire set of interdependent relationship that makes no distinction between dependent and independent variables. Independent variables or independent relationships between the whole set of variables are examined, and hence cluster analysis is mainly used for market segmentation. Dear students, you are aware of examination of a buyer behavior on collective rather than individual basis. Brands in the same cluster usually compete more fiercely with each other. Brand can use cluster analysis for strategic positioning to identify threats and opportunities in the market. So, cluster analysis in this context can be used as a general data reduction tool to manage individual observations. Similarly, the other benefits which we try to look into is the companies like insurance. Insurance company often leverage cluster analysis if there are high number of claims in a given region. This enables them to learn exactly what is driving this increase in claim. That is what we can put into. That means cluster analysis also can be used for new market segment, that is what new market segment, or to modify old ones. One always needs to keep in mind that at the end of analysis, the purpose is to define new market segment. Ideally, it should be new and interesting way of looking at market. If your firm can have a different view of market, which is termed as marketing insights, this will help the firm to gain a competitive advantage in the marketplace. Means cluster analysis, if properly used for segmentation, can act as a competitive advantage for the company. Similarly, cluster analysis can also be an input to marketing strategy as a part of application in case of marketing. With identification of viable market segments, which is a key purpose of using cluster analysis, and appropriate market segmentation is really the starting point for development of marketing strategy. Therefore, in clustering and segmentation process, keeping in mind that a suitable strategy needs to be developed and implemented using your segment, that is what we talk about target market. Similarly, let us try to understand what are the benefits of cluster analysis. Clustering allows researchers to identify patterns between the data elements, revealing, revealing these patterns between data points helps to distinguish and outline structures which might not have been apparent before, but which give significant meaning to the data once they are discovered. Once a clearly defined structure emerges from the data set at hand, informed decision making makes easier. With this, we move to the most beneficial part in marketing of the cluster analysis. Let us try to understand the concept which is called as psychographic segmentation. Psychographic segmentation divides potential consumers based on their interests, personalities, lifestyle, and activities. This kind of market segmentation is done to cater the consumer with similar likes and needs and offer them something they value. Using psychographic segmentations, company targets different messages, that is positioning, to different customer segment, that is a segment for a single product, highlighting the product's worth that is mutually beneficial for consumers belonging to one segment. Consumers have various different psychographic makeup, and analyzing these differences and grouping consumer based on their mutually shared characteristic is the beginning of psychographic segmentation. Let us try to understand the different type of psychographic segmentation example. The different variables or factors of this type of market segmentations are divided into several types. Companies, based on their product or service need and specific marketing campaign, decide which factor will benefit them. Some of the commonly used psychographic segmentation variables can be discussed. The first of which is called as life cycle segmentation, lifestyle based segmentation. Lifestyle based segmentation is the most common and popular type of psychographic market segmentation companies use. This is exceptionally true for retail sectors, clothing. Based on personal lifestyle, every person has a different lifestyle. Based on segmentation, clothing brands target consumers on which stage of life cycle they are. For us, they are school going kids, or are they college going teens? Are they professionals or office goers? Are they housewives? Are they retired? And so on. Another lifestyle that is highly considered is whether a consumer is rural or urban dweller. The best example to understand lifestyle segmentation is of Walmart. Discount store like Walmart's target middle class budget savvy individuals who aim to save money whenever and wherever they can. As a result of psychographic segmentation and studying the past and present trends, Walmart designs a message such as unbeatable prices and special discounted online offers to target their consumer that opt for discounted goods to save money. Since this message resonates with their target audience, they allow them to reach to their customers in the most efficient manner. That is what we can understand as a lifestyle based segmentation with an example of Walmart. The second example of psychographic segmentation is personality based segmentation. What does it mean? Personality is a variable of psychographic segmentation that is highly dependent on two other factors. Those factors are lifestyle and social class of consumer. A person that has a rich taste and preferences will definitely have a high buying power to maintain an equal lifestyle. A person who loves to dress lavishly will need a buying power to support this personality trait, and own to high buying power will lead to lifestyle that will support his or her personality. Brands often use this kind of marketing strategy as different brand targets different personality. Here, I would like to quote an example of Harley Davidson bike, nowadays Royal Enfield in India. For example, target personalities that are masculine, tall, and love to lead a rough lifestyle. Royal Enfield and also Java are the classical examples which will fall under a category of personality based segmentation. Here, companies offer the target consumers based on their personalities. However, this kind of segmentation requires in depth analysis of the consumer as a factor of intangible nature. Also, we move to the next class, which is called as social class based segmentation. Not all consumers in a market fall in the same social class. Social class of a person is determined by his or her buying power. This is further affected by the background of the individual. How much a person earns and what is his or her spending habits affects the social class of a person. Any consumer will purchase to maintain the social class he or she belongs to. Premium brand companies like Gucci and other similar brands target a high social class segment as they have a high buying power to purchase their product. Companies that structure their marketing strategies based on consumer social class need to consider both the lifestyle and social class of target audience. Also, we move to one more type of psychographic segmentation, which is called as an attitude based segmentation. It is again another variable of psychographic segmentation or subset of it is attitude or value of the customer. Every individual carries a unique value shaped by our surrounding, culture, and upbringing. This further determine our attitude towards different things. For example, individual that belongs to conservative background will carry certain aspects in their attitude that will restrain them from buying any product that challenges those beliefs irrespective of whatever social class or lifestyle they belong to. Apart from this, also there are other types of psychographic segmentations like marital status, education. If you look at the products such as baby foods, segment their products towards married individuals who are expected to buy this product. Nestle Cerelac always conveys an atmosphere of a cozy family house where both parents nurture their child and feed him Nestle Cerelac, faci- facilitating his healthy growth. This is done to target married individual who are target consumer for the company. Another market segment factor is education. Today, many edible oils market their products signifying the health related benefit, targeted educative individuals who would understand the importance of what is being offered and opted to buy it. Another example of psychographic segmentation can be olive oil. Market it that is being marketed with respect to the benefits olive oil offers and how it promotes a healthy lifestyle. Of course, using the same technique in the rural area would not bear fruitful results as they might not be educated enough to understand the associated benefits. These are psychographic segmentations which are outcome of the cluster analysis and are widely used in case of marketing research or in the field of marketing. Thank you.